come sit with me for a moment. Maybe you've had this realization too. You look around your home, the furniture you carefully chose, the upgrades you spent time and money on, and instead of excitement, you feel a quiet heaviness. Nothing is actually wrong. The house is comfortable, beautiful, and everything you once hoped for. But somehow it starts to feel like you're constantly maintaining it instead of simply living your life in it. That's where I found myself with my house in the city. The dream didn't really change, but the life I want now did. So I decided to let it go and make space for something that fits my values better. In this video, I'm sharing 9 simple steps I'm taking to walk away from this house, selling most of the furniture, reducing what I'll carry with me, and clearing the space before leaving. Maybe we can think through this together. I started this journey with something a little unexpected, selling most of the furniture in our house. At first, the idea sounded a bit extreme, but when I really looked around the house, I noticed something quite obvious. A lot of the furniture we owned had been chosen specifically for this space. The sofa fit perfectly into the corner of the living room, the dining table was bought to match the kitchen layout. The decorative shelves were placed just right to fill empty walls. In other words, many of these items weren't just furniture. They were almost designed for this particular house. When I started thinking about moving somewhere else, I realized something simple. Not everything needed to come with us. Instead of trying to pack up the entire house and take it somewhere new, I tried a different approach. I decided to keep only the pieces we truly needed for daily life and slowly sell the rest. I began with the larger items: the sofa, the dining table, the decor shelves, the display cabinets. One by one, they left the house, and something interesting happened each time. The space started to feel a little more open. At the same time, I also felt a little lighter. Through this process, I realized that many things didn't actually need to follow us into the next chapter of our lives. Not because they were no longer good, but simply because their role belonged to this house. If you want to try something similar, you can start with a very small step. Look around your living room or dining area and pick one large piece of furniture. Then ask yourself whether that item truly needs to move with you into the next stage of your life. You don't have to make a decision right away. Simply starting to look at things from that perspective is enough. And once the bigger pieces began leaving the house, something else slowly became clear. There were still many smaller things that had quietly accumulated over the years. That was when I moved on to the next step. The next step was based on a very simple principle: reduce the number of boxes we would bring with us when we move. When I first started packing, I noticed something very familiar. Without a clear limit, things just keep going into boxes. Almost every item seems like it could still be useful, so keeping it always feels reasonable. And every once in a while, the thought appears, one more box won't hurt. Before long, the number of boxes grows much faster than expected. So this time, I tried doing the opposite. Instead of packing first and then seeing how many boxes we ended up with, I decided the number of boxes in advance. Everything we brought with us had to fit within that limit, or simply fit into a small moving truck. That one decision completely changed the way I chose what to keep. Instead of holding on to things just because they were still usable, I began keeping only the items that truly supported our current life. Other things, even if they were perfectly good, didn't necessarily need to follow us into the next stage. What surprised me most was how much easier the process became once the limit was clear. It no longer felt like we were trying to squeeze an entire house into cardboard boxes. Instead, Each box felt like a deliberate choice about what really mattered. If you want to try this approach, you can start small. Pick a small area in your home, like a drawer or a bookshelf. Prepare 2 or 3 boxes and commit to using only those. Once the boundary is set from the beginning, sorting things often becomes much clearer and faster. And as the number of boxes began to shrink, I started noticing something else. Many things in our home existed not because they were truly necessary, but because they made life more convenient. And those conveniences were exactly what I started looking at next. At this point, I began noticing something else about the house. Many things existed simply because they made life more convenient. Years of living in the city had gradually trained us to upgrade things for efficiency. Appliances in the kitchen became more advanced. Storage systems became more sophisticated. Small pieces of technology appeared around the house, each designed to make daily tasks easier. At first, these upgrades were genuinely helpful. They made life smoother and made the house feel more comfortable. But as we started decluttering, I realized something surprising. Many things I once thought were necessary were actually just habits that had formed over time. For example, there were kitchen appliances I bought thinking I would use them all the time. But after a while, they simply sat on a shelf. Some storage systems were incredibly clever, but they also encouraged me to keep more things than I really needed. Convenience in some ways had slowly made things more complicated than I expected. Looking back at all these upgrades helped me see something clearly. Convenience can quietly turn into dependency. Once we get used to it, it becomes easy to imagine life would be difficult without it. So I started doing something simple. I began observing the conveniences around the house and asking which ones truly supported daily life, and which ones were only there because we had grown used to them. When I looked at things that way, letting go of many items became much easier, and that process led to a deeper question. If not every convenience is necessary, then what kind of life do we actually want to live? That was when our family started having more serious conversations about the values we wanted to build our lives around. As we began reevaluating the conveniences in our home, something deeper gradually became clear. Many of the decisions we had made in the past weren't really questioned. They simply followed what looked like the normal path of success. In modern society, progress often comes with a familiar image: a bigger house, more upgrades, and a better location. These things easily become signs that life is moving forward. Because of that, it's easy to keep expanding and improving the house without stopping to think too much about it. For a long time, we followed that pattern as well. Each upgrade felt reasonable on its own. A small renovation, a new piece of furniture, or another improvement that would make daily life more comfortable. But once we paused and stepped back, our family conversations slowly shifted. Instead of focusing on what the house still needed, we began talking about the kind of life we actually wanted. The answers turned out to be much simpler than we expected. What we truly wanted was more time together, less financial pressure, and a slower, calmer pace of life. Once those priorities became clear, many decisions suddenly felt easier. Not every convenience was necessary, and a bigger house didn't automatically mean a better life. From that perspective, I began to understand something important. A house should support the values a family wants to live by. It shouldn't quietly replace them. Once that realization settled in, many choices became lighter, and the next steps in letting go of the house became much clearer. This tip focuses on something very practical yet often overlooked: stop putting more money into the house. Once we started seriously thinking about changing our lifestyle, I realized the first thing to reconsider wasn't our belongings. It was the steady stream of money still quietly flowing into the house every month. For years, I believed the house only needed a little more to feel complete. A new decor piece could make the living room feel warmer. A small kitchen upgrade might make cooking easier. Every now and then, there was another renovation idea that would make the space cleaner or more beautiful. Individually, these expenses always seemed harmless: a small decoration, a minor interior change, or a repair that wasn't really urgent. But when I stepped back and looked at the bigger picture, something became clear. A house can be upgraded forever. There is always something else to improve, always. Another, better version ahead. So I started applying a simple rule: pause all non-essential investments. No more buying new decor. Interior upgrades were postponed. Even cosmetic repairs were no longer a priority. This decision didn't just save money. More importantly, it created a subtle sense of detachment from our old way of living. When I stopped trying to improve the house, I also stopped feeling like I had to stay committed to it. The mindset behind this is simple. If you're already moving toward a different lifestyle, continuing to invest in the old system only slows the transition. And during this process, I realized something else. The hardest thing to let go of wasn't the belongings or the money. It was the sense of security the house had always provided. This is a tip that isn't discussed very often, but it might be the most important part of the entire transition. Accepting the risk of starting over. Staying in the current house brings a very clear sense of stability. Everything feels familiar and predictable. Daily routines are already in place. Life has its rhythm, and every corner of the house carries a sense of comfort. Leaving means something completely different. A new place to live, a new environment, many unknowns ahead. What will the new rhythm of life look like? Will the new area feel right? These are questions that only time can answer. That uncertainty is exactly what keeps many people where they are, even when they feel their current life no longer truly fits them. Stability can feel safe, even when something inside us is quietly asking for change. One insight that became clear to me during this process is that stability can sometimes keep us in a life that no longer feels right. When everything becomes too familiar, stepping outside the comfort zone becomes far more difficult than we expect. My family had very normal concerns as well. No one knew exactly what the new place would be like. Whether the new lifestyle would suit us remained an open question. But after many conversations, we gradually accepted something simple. A little risk is sometimes necessary to create real change. This decision wasn't impulsive. It was simply the recognition that every new chapter comes with a certain level of uncertainty. And that realization became even more important when I noticed something else. Sometimes we tie too much of our identity to the house we live in. Another shift slowly appeared in the way I started seeing things. I stopped viewing the house as part of my identity. At first, it may sound like a small change, but it actually affects how easily someone can walk away from their home. After years of living in the city, a beautiful home can easily become part of one's personal image. The space is carefully designed, the furniture thoughtfully selected, and every corner reflects the owner's taste. Over time, the house becomes more than just a place to live, it turns into a symbol of success. Because of that, the idea of leaving can sometimes feel like losing a part of yourself. Not because the house is essential for living, but because it has become tied to how you see yourself. So I began approaching the house differently, seeing it for what it truly is. A house is simply a place where we live. It isn't something that defines who we are. Once I looked at it this way, a lot of pressure quietly disappeared. Thoughts about how others might judge the decision faded. Even the feeling that I might somehow be moving backward in life became lighter. The house returned to its proper place, a part of life, not the whole story. Separating my identity from the house made the transition much easier. When personal value is no longer tied to possessions, choosing a different direction in life becomes far more natural. And after letting go of that attachment, something interesting started to appear. I began to see more clearly what my family truly wanted in life, rather than what we once thought we needed. The next shift was a clear change in how I started looking at life, placing time and experiences ahead of property ownership. This thought came when our family looked closely at everything the house required from us each day. A large house can offer comfort and stability, but it also comes with many responsibilities, maintenance costs, regular upkeep, and a long-term commitment to a specific place. Over time, many of our family's decisions began revolving around the house. Finances, daily routines, and even weekly schedules were influenced by maintaining the current living space. That's when I began seeing things from a different perspective. Is the property truly serving our life, or is it quietly consuming too much of our time and energy? Once I started thinking this way, several things became clearer. When the weight of property becomes lighter, other things naturally open up. There is more free time, more flexibility in life, and far more opportunities to experience new things. This doesn't mean property has no value, but sometimes owning less can create a kind of freedom we didn't notice before. When less energy is spent maintaining possessions, more space appears for the things that truly matter. And during this reflection, I noticed something interesting. Sometimes having less can make life feel more spacious. Not because the world around us becomes smaller, but because our time and energy are finally directed toward what matters most. Before truly leaving the house behind, there was one last thing I wanted to do, a way to close that chapter completely. This final tip is about the last step before leaving, clearing the house completely. It's not simply about packing things for a move. It's about a genuine process of letting go. When a family lives in the same house for many years, belongings accumulate naturally. Some items stay because we think we might use them someday. Others remain because they carry emotional value. Over time, these objects quietly become part of the living space. So before leaving, I decided on one final rule: don't bring along anything that no longer serves the life we're moving into. At that point, decluttering no longer felt like preparing for a move. It felt more like closing an old chapter. Unnecessary items were gradually removed. Objects kept only for sentimental reasons were reconsidered carefully. Even things that had stayed for years under the thought maybe someday were no longer included in what we would take with us. Slowly, the house became emptier. But the feeling wasn't negative. In fact, the space felt lighter, almost as if everything was preparing for a new beginning. During that process, I realized something interesting. Leaving with very few belongings feels completely different from simply moving houses. When we bring almost everything from the old home, the new life often ends up looking very similar to the previous one, just in a different location. The same objects, the same habits, the same atmosphere follow along. But when only the truly necessary things remain, everything becomes lighter. The new space isn't filled with too much from the past, and starting a new chapter feels much more natural. And When the house was finally cleared out, leaving didn't feel like abandoning something behind anymore. It felt more like stepping forward into the next phase of life. As we wrap up these 9 tips, one thing became clear. Letting go of a house is rarely just about the house itself. Often, it's about rethinking the kind of life we truly want. For our family, that realization came slowly through many small conversations and reflections. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever felt that your home required more time, money, or energy than you wanted to give? Share your experience in the comments. If this topic resonates with you, the next video will explore another simple idea about creating a lighter lifestyle. And if you found this helpful, feel free to like and subscribe for more.